So I love the movie 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a great romantic comedy, a teen comedy from the 1990s. If you haven't seen it, you definitely should. But unlike the movie, where the characters really decide that they do like each other at the end, I am convinced that I will never like the probate court process. In fact, I don't even do them now as an attorney because I hate them so much. Here are 10 reasons why I hate probate, and I think you should too. Okay, reason number 1 are the filing fees. The court makes you pay about $450 to file a petition to open a probate, and then another $450 to close the petition. All right, so it costs money just to go through the court system. And I think that's ripping you off. That's money that you shouldn't have to pay. The second reason, which I think you're gonna find funny, is actually something that's good for me, but it's bad for my clients. Attorneys get paid a lot for doing probates. That's why a lot of attorneys like doing probates. But for the other 9 reasons that you're seeing here, that's why I don't. So I want to go through the fee schedule that attorneys are paid. So you'll see that we get a whole lot of money. For the first $100,000, we get 4%. For the next $100,000, we get 3%. For the next amount, we get 2%. And then anything over that, we get 1% of all the trust assets. That's a huge payment. For $1 million estate, that's like $23,000. That's money that you'd rather go to your beneficiaries or to your favorite charity instead of to the lawyer. The third reason is also financial. Executors get paid the same amount as the attorney does. So now that $23,000 that I mentioned for $1 million estate, now you can double that. And that's how much is going to the attorney plus the executor. That's a huge chunk of money going to a place that you probably don't want it to go. Okay, another really important reason why everybody should hate probate is that it's public. Everybody has access to looking online as to what somebody has filed. So once you open a probate petition, everybody knows where is the house located, who are the beneficiaries, and there's some realtors who start reaching out and saying, hey, I could help you sell your house. And there's heir finders who start calling you. I mean, it's kind of the sky's the limit. People have been known to break into houses. So you'll definitely want to change locks if you're going through this process because they know where the house is that's now oftentimes vacant and subject to sale. So we like privacy, especially in California, and this does not lend itself to that. Okay, the 5th reason I don't like probate is that you have to pay somebody to appraise all the assets. That person is called a probate referee. They're actually an appraiser who makes sure that the value of the assets is accurately determined. All right, so they'll go and they'll do an appraisal of the house. They'll also appraise the bank accounts, but they charge for this, all right? And it can cost a lot of money. So I think that this is also a fee that's just unnecessary. Why put yourself through this? Okay, reason number 6 is that you typically need to do an accounting, which is basically showing where money went from the beginning, from the time of death of the person, all the way down to when the money's ready to be distributed. And this could be like 10 cents in dividends for investments. You have to show everything, and it takes a long time. You have to pay somebody to do the accounting, unless you know how to do accountings. I don't even do accountings, right? So boy, it's a lot of work, and you don't want to put anybody through that. Okay, reason number 7 is that the probate process takes a long time. Let me give you an example. Okay, in Santa Clara County, it can take 4 months nowadays to get a hearing date. So that means when somebody dies, just to bring the petition to open the probate can take 4 months. And a lot of times you need to be the executor or the personal representative. You need to be appointed to be able to do anything with any of the assets. So those assets are just sitting there. You can't access them. I mean, it takes so long. Usually it takes at least a year or a year and a half complete to wrap up a probate after all the things you have to do. You also have to notify the creditors. There's many different steps that are required that if you're doing a trust administration, you don't need to do. So the timing is horrible. Now, not every state is like this. I do want to mention that. I've heard that in Texas, you can go down to the courthouse and immediately be appointed the personal representative. That's mind-blowing. That's wonderful. Now there's other things in Texas that I'm not as crazy about, and I'm happy to be in California, but I really commend Texas for making that as smooth as possible. But here in California, the probate court system is not smooth at all. Reason number 8 I don't like probate is that if you don't have a will, then the probate code dictates where your stuff goes. So it may end up going to your first cousin who you can't stand instead of to the charity that you would prefer. Or maybe it goes, if you're going through a divorce and the divorce isn't completed, it might go to your soon-to-be ex-spouse. I mean, you really go in places that you don't want it to go. So you really do want to specify. Now notice that I said, if you don't have a will, because even if you have a will, you're still going through probate. And that's one thing that people don't seem to recognize. The will determines where things go, and you could name who's managing it, who's the executor, but the court process is still the same. You're still having to go to court to file the petition, to get the probate referee to pay all these fees. That hasn't changed even if you have a will. Rule number 9 is that every county has different local rules. So if you're practicing in California and you want to do a probate in another county from where you typically practice, you need to get up to speed on what those rules are. All right, and some of them are pretty antiquated. So it's very difficult to figure out all the rules of the court. So I think it's better just to avoid the court process in general. And the last thing I hate about probate is that probate covers everything. If you have assets over about $185,000 and you don't have a trust and you don't have beneficiaries listed, then you're going through probate. That's a low threshold. And I think that that's unfair. But that's what we have. That's your freebie. So if you don't own very much, if you own $50,000, it's not a problem. But if you own a house, then that house could be going through this horrible process that I'm talking about. So those are my top 10 reasons. And I bet if you've been through probate, you could add a few reasons of your own why you don't like probate either. But I suggest instead, to avoid probate, you can create a revocable living trust. And then the trust says where things go. The trust says who handles it. It's much less expensive than a probate. It takes less time. So I'm all for trusts. And I even do the trust administrations when people die. So you can work with me to create the trust. And when somebody dies, we're happy to help administer the trust. So, moral of the story, go get yourself a trust. So I encourage you to watch this video over here called What Should an Estate Plan Contain? To find out more about creating your own revocable living trust.